Should we get going? People are coming in.
Yeah. All righty. So I think we're going to get started here to be respectful of everyone's time. Um, Good evening. My name is Kristie. It's great to have you guys here tonight and be supporting us.
And my name is Amanda, and we are the co-founders of the Social 630. As we wait for others, keep putting stuff in the chat. We even want to know how you found us. How did you find this CE tonight? Was
Yeah.
it on Instagram? Was it from Dr. Brian? Was it from Heather? Was it from Josey? Was it from Kathy? Let us know how you found the CE tonight.
We want to encourage you guys to all be active in the chat. Keep the questions coming. We want to really promote an engaging conversation, and we will be doing a little giveaway tonight at the end of the presentation with some fun swag that will be given to the participant with the most activity in the chat. So before we get too far along here, we do want to give a little shout out to our two doctors, Dr. Lou and Dr. Van Tramp, and our other members of our Dove family, including our amazing hygiene team pictured in this opening slide here. Haley, Joey, Tori, and Bethany. We're just so grateful for you guys, and thank you for your endless support in this endeavor. Your friendship and your support mean the world to us.
All right. So welcome to the Social 630, a dental hygiene focused society. We are so grateful that you've chosen to spend your evening with us. The Social 630 was born out of kind of a crazy time that most of us remember pretty clearly, a time of isolation, a time of uncertainty, and a time of distance. There was a deep desire to reconnect, not just socially, but professionally, to sit across the table from people who get it. Dental hygienists who care deeply about patient care, who see oral health through the oral systemic lens, and truly believe that we are better together. Kristie and I found ourselves in that same spot about 3.5 years ago, right here in Puyallup, Washington. And at the time, we were several years into ramping up our dental hygiene program at Dove Family Dentistry. We were asking big questions, asking how we could make our department better and how we could help our patients become healthier. What can we do to be more intentional? What can we do to be giving more evidence-based care and making our profession more fulfilling? We knew we couldn't be the only hygienists that were feeling this way. Both of us had been really active in the ADHA at different points in our careers, sometimes together, sometimes separately. But when our local component dissolved in around 2017, I think it was, we eventually began feeling like something was missing. When the world shut down and that gap became even more obvious, community was missing, collaboration was missing. And so the Social 630 began, not as an organization, but as an idea that what if we created a space that we wish still existed? My own journey in hygiene started in 2007 when I graduated from Southern Illinois University. I might have some Salukis out there in the audience. I think I saw one of my best friends, Candace from hygiene school on already. And I was fresh out of school, and I landed the only interview I had. I landed the only job with the only interview that I got after hygiene school, and it was working in public health. A year later, my husband and I moved to Washington State, where I transitioned into private practice. While grateful that to have found a job so fast, I quickly realized that I needed a role that I could grow more in. That search eventually led me to what I call my forever home, Dove Family Dentistry, where I've been ever since. While temping and working both part-time in a periodontal and general practice offices, each experience has shaped my perspective on what hygiene could be. Now, Kristie's path looked a little different, but definitely perfectly complementary. Kristie earned her bachelor's degree in Spanish from Western Washington University before deciding to pursue her dental hygiene degree. She graduated from Pierce College right here in Puyallup
Go
and,
Raiders.
and joined Dove Family Dentistry in 2016. Over the years, she's worked both full-time and part-time, adapting her schedule as her family's needs have evolved. Something that I think many hygienists can deeply relate to. Together, alongside Dr. Van Tramp, we've transformed our hygiene protocols and built a department we are incredibly proud of. One grounded in collaboration, in trust, and a shared commitment to a patient-centered care. The Social 630 is an extension of that philosophy. Our mission is simple but powerful: to elevate dental hygiene patient care through community and friendship. We believe in thriving together. in supporting one another, and treating our patients through the oral systemic lens, because what we do matters far beyond the mouth. This society exists because we knew we weren't meant to do this alone, and neither are you. Welcome to the Social 630.
Woohoo. So that leads us to tonight as we step into 2026. Social 630 is expanding both our virtual and in-person continuing education offerings with a focus on conversations that truly support the evolving realities of dentistry. Communication sits at the center of it all, and that's how we connect with our patients, collaborate with the teams, and sustain ourselves as professionals. Tonight's CE is about more than words. It's about communication, how it shapes our care, our culture, and connection in 2026.
Before we begin our panel discussion, let's briefly review how tonight will flow. This CE is designed as a panel-style lecture, allowing for multiple perspectives and real-world experiences around communication and dentistry. We'll guide our panel through 5 key questions, and we invite you to submit questions or reflections in the chat at any time. We've built in dedicated time at the end of the program for live audience Q&A. At the conclusion of our Q&A, a QR code and a link will be displayed that will take you to a pre-course evaluation. And Haley, one of our fellow hygienists here at Dove, she's on tonight, and she's going to be throwing the different links into the chat as well, if you want to obtain it that way. Upon completion of the course evaluation, you will automatically be emailed your CE certificates for tonight's presentation. Our hope is that tonight feels thoughtful, engaging, and immediately applicable, not just informative.
Okay, so Amanda and I are joined by 3 additional panelists for tonight's lecture. Josey Sewell, the Culture and Confidence Coach. She is a nationally recognized expert in helping entrepreneurial dental businesses solve their toughest challenges, from team engagement, accountability, to scalability and infrastructure. As the founder of Joyful Growth, a professional training and coaching company for dentists, she brings deep insights into creating strong culture, empowered teams, and confident leadership across dental practices. Thanks for being here tonight, Josey. Dr. Brian Edwards. After 15 years in private practice, Dr. Brian Edwards knew there had to be a better way to practice dentistry. For patients and for the team, in 2025, that conviction led to a bold evolution, rebranding the practice as 323, a practice built on the ideal gum pocket measurements for health, 323. The shift meant intentionally stepping away from all dental insurance contracts and standing firmly for a prevention-centered hygiene, prevention first, hygiene-centered model of care. At 323, dental hygiene is the cornerstone of everything they do. Our hygienists, or their hygienists, are supported, not burned out. They see 7 patients in an 8-hour day, encouraged to customize recare to patients' health requirements. They have dedicated hygiene assistants, additional hygiene rooms to alternate, and advanced technology like guided biofilm therapy, or GPT, and salivary diagnosis. It's incredible to work as a team where happiness prevails, health is the cornerstone, and hygiene is elevated and dentistry is celebrated. And then we also have Heather McGuire. She is a seasoned dental professional and corporate leader whose career spans clinical practice, dental service organization leadership, and sales excellence. She has served as clinical success manager and director of dental hygiene development for multiple DSOs, building programs that advance patient care, operational consistency, and professional growth. Heather now serves as the Senior Manager of Professional Education and Industry Relations at Philips Oral Healthcare, where she leads national education strategy, academic partnerships, and continuing education initiatives. She's also a master practitioner and certified coach of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which we'll get into a little bit more here in just a second, mental and emotional release, and hypnosis, integrating communication and behavioral science into her work to elevate learning, performance, and leadership across the dental profession. So, with such a robust level of expertise, we are so excited for these panelists who have chosen to talk with us tonight. Thank you guys for being here. And with that, let's get started.
As foundation for this evening's discussion on communication, Heather, I'd like to begin with you. In 2026, patients and teams are more informed, but also more overwhelmed, skeptical, and emotionally fatigued than ever. From your perspective as an as an educator and an NLP coach, how do specific words, phrases, or tones unintentionally trigger emotional responses or resistance? And how can becoming more intentional with our language transform the way patients and teams receive our message, even when the information itself hasn't changed?
Hi, thank you guys. I am so excited to be here. Before I dive into that, the chat is really active and very exciting. And I was sharing before I got on, sometimes I have a hard time of where to look. The chat, the camera, the side. So my eyes are going to bounce. But I am super excited to be here. You guys are all fantastic to spend time. And thank you for Social 630 for asking me to be here. So before I dig into the question, I would like to spend a second explaining what is NLP. So that is an acronym for Neuro Linguistics Programming, which sounds either like a computer software hack or something you're going to do wonky in my brain. What it really is neuro, our brain, language, how our brain processes our language, spoken and non-spoken, to form our patterns in our beliefs. So our beliefs are lodged deep in our unconscious mind. And so many times we have reactions in situations where we think, gosh, why did I say that? Or why did I act like that? Or why do I feel the way I feel when somebody says that? And it's because neurons that fire together wire together. So language formed our pattern to make our neural pathways light up with excitement or some kind of emotion with that language pattern. So it's a huge study. Other than dentistry, I geek out on it. If anybody wants to go deeper, please look me up. I would love to have a conversation deeper with that. So that being said, with what is NLP, to answer the question, what I want to share is what is a language style? So, have you ever walked away from a conversation and you're like, oh my gosh, that person had no idea what I even said? Like, where did that conversation go south? They didn't hear me. They didn't understand me. I don't feel like they know what I was talking about. And sometimes when we're with our patients, you can see that disconnect. You see where they actually just shut you out, goes over your head. So what I want to talk about with language styles will cross all thresholds to what all the other panelists are going to speak on tonight, because we can use this tool and technique with our patients, with our team members, with our family members. You can actually start playing with it in the grocery store and any communications that you have. So what a language style is how a person is experiencing the world. So what is our dominant sensory channel that's charging up our nervous system? And when you listen to language, it's full of cues. So visual people, visual language style will process in pictures. And they're going to say things like, I see what you mean, or let me see if I got this right. So you're going to hear language that supports that they're a visual learner. They're going to say things like, I don't see how I can afford this. I don't see how I have the time to come in for this. They're typically fast speaking, and they're going to be your patients or your team members who are going to respond better with slides, visuals, and whiteboards. There's also auditory processors, and they're going to be identified by statements like, yeah, that sounds right, or that sounds really good. I'm ready to move forward with that. Or, oh boy, I don't like the sounds of that. They're going to give you cues that they are processing with auditory. They're typically more moderate paced speakers. And they enjoy learning from dialogues and podcasts. They may come in and tell you about this great audio book that they listen to, or And maybe they're going to repeat their phrases a little bit because they really want to hear. And then there's the kinesthetic or the feeling processors. And they're going to tell you things like, that feels right, or boy, I'm really carrying a lot. You ask them how they're doing, how's their day? Oh, I'm so heavy, right? So these are feeling words. I'm really stuck in making this decision. Okay. They're going to talk at a slower pace. If you can't tell by this next what language system I am, they use their hands a lot. Pro tip, I am kinesthetic. So they're going to use their hands a lot and be more expressive because they're trying to feel to understand. So I tell you all of this to tell you the answer to this question. If you can slow yourself down and listen to the words that are being spoken, you can help remove some unintentional triggers that our words may say in highly sensitive times when presenting a big treatment plan or having a big conversation with your boss. Or, a courageous conversation with a coworker because something didn't land right. If you can hear the way people are speaking, the meaning of communication is the response that we get. And if we're not getting the response that we need, how can I own this conversation to pivot a little bit, to open the door to take that conversation to a deeper level? So, my perspective with all that being said is communication starts with listening.
Heather, I had an instance today that I was thinking about where like if I would have had what you just said earlier today, it would have made a lot of sense. But I have a girl that I work with, Sarah, and I think I'm visual, but I'm not visual when you describe it. It's funny. I was thinking, what do I say? And in my mind, I was saying this like, oh, that feels right. And then you described the kinesthetic, and I was like, oh, maybe that's what I am. But Sarah, I was working with her today, and we have this concept in our company, and it's, do you feel like you're growing up, in, or out? And she was like, Josey, I don't understand this, can you give me a visual? Like, and the way that she would have described the visual is different than I would have. And so I jotted down notes in our like performance conversation, our quarterly check-in today, that I was like, give her a visual anytime she can. So I am really grateful for what you just shared, because I think there's so many practical applications, and I think I'm the kinesthetic and she's the visual, and I need to give her more visuals.
What a great observation. And there is a QR code that I made a really basic handout, and the end of it, I put a couple examples of conversation. They are not clinical, but yes. So
It's not so basic anymore.
oh, okay. Well, you jazzed it up. Good
I jazzed
job.
it up.
Okay, I can't wait to see it.
With
I'm
your
gonna
permission, so I jazzed it up.
Of course, of course.
It looks
Um,
beautiful.
I'll give you the little bit of the flow chart there, but you are absolutely right, Josey, because you were speaking to her of, do you feel like you're growing? And she can't associate that way. So if you simply swapped out, do you see yourself growing? And then she would have clicked and the conversation would have
Yeah.
flowed. And once you play with this a little bit and you get really good at it, it's fun to speak in all languages. So you can say something one way, and then when you repeat it, you're going to say it in a kinesthetic versus a visual. So you can, when you're in a group, you can have everybody see, hear, and feel your message. See what I did there?
That was good. That was good.
I like it.
That's awesome. All right. Are we ready to move on to question number 2? Or should we look in the chat if there's any questions about question number 1? I didn't look.
I mean, I could listen to Heather all night.
So could I.
No.
I feel the same way.
Look at all these people learning what they are. I love it.
I still don't feel like I know what I am, but I'm guessing I'm auditory.
Feel.
You think I'm feel?
You just said feel.
Oh.
I don't know.
I should have ended because we're going to now start in picking each other all apart.
Yeah,
Pair up with a friend. Pair up with a friend and ask them to listen to how you speak. speak the most during the day.
I love it.
So
I
curious.
love it.
Yeah.
It's so good for personal growth too. Just to not only adapt to your patients and like why doesn't this patient get it, and maybe there's some cues to pick up there, but also for yourself and how you communicate all around. So good.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
good. Thank you, Heather.
All
You're
right,
very
we
welcome.
ready to move on to question number two?
So, building what we learned in question one, let's move on to question two. Um, so question one was focused on language, triggers, meaning, and now we're going to move on to question two, which will help us use our communication skills to improve workplace culture. So Josey, with your background as a culture and confidence coach, you work closely with both dentists and hygienists navigating team dynamics. From your perspective, what are the most common interstaff communication struggles between dentists and hygienists today, and how can hygienists actively influence and improve team culture when we can't change others, but we can change how we communicate, show up, and respond?
All right, thank you. I'm really excited to dive into this question. Before I give my response, I want to share a little bit about my experience. So, a clinical dental hygienist, spent the first part of my career in private practice. And then my family required that I make a change in what I was doing. I have three children. My oldest has severe autism. And about the time that he was 13, it was getting more difficult for me to be his primary caregiver. So my husband and I traded roles. We moved to Oregon because I really wanted to have a, mobile practice treating patients with special needs, but I thought I need to figure out, I need to get a job to pay for our family's bills while I'm going to build this, mobile dental hygiene business. And so I got into consulting and learned the business of dentistry. That was back in 2016. Since then, I have coached lots of different practices, but I was also an executive inside a dental group. I was the chief operating officer of a group that was doing 40 million in annual revenue, had 200 team members. And so I've been in the trenches as an operations leader. And then since about 2020, have been coaching inside the industry. I spend a lot of time actually in the DSO and the dental group space. And what I've been doing is helping these emerging dental groups, not the big giant ones, but more of the emerging dental groups, create their vision, build their systems, define their core values, create a healthy culture. And what I've been doing for the last year is I have a business partner, Dr. Eric Roman. He's a dentist, and we've built something called Dental Associate Growth. And inside that, over the last year, I've had the opportunity to train over 100 dentist associates, and I've also helped train their clinical leaders. One of the things that we find that's really struggling in the industry is having strong leadership for our clinical team. We know that being a dentist is a leadership career, and yet dental associates are not taught how to lead. And so I will tell you, I spend probably more of my time with dentists than I do with hygienists. And over the last 6 years, as I've sat with dentists and executives and people across the country, I will tell you one common thread across every single one of them is that they feel like they struggle with their hygiene department. And so I'm going to share some things today from the other side of the fence. I want you to know that everything that I'm sharing and recommending to us as hygienists, I share these exact same things with dentists. And so I want you to know I just have a ton of experience in working with various different team members, and especially those owners and dentists. And what I will tell you is that the conversation is very, very common when we start talking about the hygiene department or the performance of the hygiene department, or even how do we retain and find great hygienists. And I will tell you that often the conversation goes somewhere along the lines where they're like, hey, Josey, you're a hygienist. Can you help us understand how in the world to talk to our hygienists? We've tried logic, we've tried emotion, we've tried so many different things, and we feel like there is such a wall. We feel like they're really difficult to talk to. We feel like it's really difficult to find solutions to problems. And it seems like they're just never happy. And whenever we try to solve things or we try to put something in place, they want to quit and they want to go find their next job. Or what's really tough is they keep demanding a higher and a higher hourly wage. And when we talk to them about what that means and what's possible, they just aren't open to listening to it. Now, that's what I hear, right? And so I have the opportunity to work with dentists and practices and groups to help them have better culture and relationships with their hygiene team. But I will tell you that as hygienists, we are also at fault, right? We are also very difficult to communicate with, and we are sometimes difficult to work with. I wish that that was not the case, but it just seems to continue to happen. And what I'll tell you that I think maybe part of the issue is that when we look at what's happening inside our world, I think that this really difficult, challenging relationship between dentists and hygienists is some of the same stuff that we're seeing, sadly, in the world with things like politics, right? Or people of different religions. And somehow we live in this world where if you are different than me, then we can't engage in a productive conversation, right? And so I think that we've lost the ability at a large scale to really have productive, difficult conversations. And so I have seen hygienists villainize dentists or business owners. I have seen business owners and dentists absolutely villainize the hygienist. And so we have struggled to come together and have these meaningful, productive, but sometimes conflicting conversations. So I live in Vineyard, Utah, and I am not somebody who's like really into politics at all. I'm probably like I probably should be more in touch, but I'm not in touch. But I will tell you that 2 miles from my house is where, at Utah University, where Charlie Kirk was killed. And so my neighborhood was on lockdown and shut down, and I live in a very peaceful town. That experience really shook my neighborhood and where we were. And everybody that I live around. Now, I didn't know who he was before this happened, but I definitely paid attention and started looking and seeing what was happening around the world. And so the governor of Utah, he actually created this kind of unique campaign, and it's called Disagree Better. And so he is a white conservative man who grew up on a farm in Utah, and he will do a video with a Black man who grew up in the inner city who is a Democrat. And they're showing like, hey, we can have these difficult conversations, but we can do it peacefully. And so I think, unfortunately, many of us have just struggled how to engage with constructive conflict. And so the dentist may want to engage with a hygienist and have a conversation, but one, maybe they aren't skilled yet in that conversation and they struggle with it. They might get it wrong. And then hygienists too, we might have our walls up and we might be defensive about some of those things. So I think that we're seeing like, we've all had that experience where I loved the dentist that I worked with in the practice. And I felt like we had a great relationship. And it wasn't until I started speaking or I started getting out into the larger dental hygiene field, or then when we got on Facebook and we have all of these Facebook groups that are villainizing the dentist. And then it was like, am I supposed to not trust my dentist? Am I not supposed to, are they really just after all of the money? Are they trying to take advantage of me? And so that is what I think has often happened is we have villainized each other and we struggle with productive conflict. So the second part of this question, what can we do? Here are some very quick tips. And these are absolutely the things that I have shared with dentists, with executives, with business owners. Number one, please be educated about the basics of the business. For them, I tell them they need to understand the basics of dental hygiene. They need to understand your world and you need to understand their world. I think that what's tough is that when we continue to demand a higher level of pay, but we're not willing to understand what that means for the practice or what the economics are in the practice, that's really tough. The more that you know about the business and even your performance through metrics and numbers, the greater you can advocate for yourself in a very educated way, whether that is you want to raise or you want to get you want to do, you want to get some new equipment, right? And Dr. Bryan's going to talk about that. The more that you can speak to that, the better your message is going to be heard. Heather's talking about how do we understand each other's language. Understanding the business and the economics will allow you to open up a better conversation with your dentist. One of the things I've tried hard to embody is that I want to be impossible to offend, meaning like we get ourselves in trouble when we're very sensitive and take things very personally. I try hard to just take nothing personally. And maybe when a message comes to me that seems like, hey, that maybe felt a little off, right? To Heather's point, then I approach that with curiosity. Hey, did you mean it when you said it that way? Because I understood it this way, right? So being impossible to offend, being curious with the other person, engaging in conversation, asking your doctor, if they turn down a purchase that you want to buy, okay, well, could you tell me what it would take in order for us to be able to afford this? Can you tell me what it would take for you to feel comfortable implementing this new process, right? So being curious and helping them with that conversation. What I will also tell you is that the hygienists who I find are incredibly successful are the ones that like there's no ego there. Meaning like we have a license, we are highly educated, we are so valuable, and yet we're not above taking out the trash or we're not above cleaning a room for a dental assistant who's running behind. And so when we can lead from the middle is what I often say, right? Like we're not the business owner. It's not our business, but when we can lead from the middle and we can be that person that's impossible to offend and willing to help others, it goes a long way. And then the last thing I will say is that authority is not loud. Right. And so you have authority, you have a credibility, and it doesn't have to mean that you are highly demanding or refuse to compromise or refuse to work something out with your team. But authority is calm confidence. It's knowing your stuff and it's speaking your truth and being open to having that difficult conversation when they come up. Your growth is absolutely dependent on your ability to engage in what we think of as difficult conversations and do it with this like calm, curious demeanor.
Wow. I love that. That was awesome, Josey. So good. So good. I'm gonna follow up to that.
Go for it.
I just in temping, it just triggered a few different thoughts in my mind, but in temping or working, I work part-time on Saturdays. Kristie and I, we just can't get enough of each other. We work full-time together, but we also work in our part-time job together. We do everything together. Anyway, so I work at another office on Saturdays, and just sometimes I I love working there. I've worked there since 2016, but because I'm not lead hygienist there, I'm not in charge by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just there on Saturdays, hit and miss. Sometimes when I ask questions to the other hygienists, I'll ask like, "Oh, do you guys have?" I remember when I first started there. This is 10 years ago now.
Mhm.
Does anybody, where's the disclosing solution? And just someone being like, "Disclosing solution." I haven't used that since hygiene school, and me thinking, "Oh, that's so crazy. Like, where's the disclosing solution at? Seriously, like, are you just joking?
Yeah.
Like, I want the disclosing solution." And being like, they're okay because that's just how they've always done it there. And me not being okay with it because it's not how I do things, but just that communication struggle, even amongst the hygiene team, that, sometimes how you approach that is really, really, you need to be delicate with it and not be offensive or not be rude about it, but being able to have that conversation where the other person's not offended because you think that they're a bad hygienist because they're not disclosing, and you can say it without like looking like holier than thou or better than them or whatever. So my mind went a lot of different directions on that topic, Josey, just even within the hygiene department, not even just the dentist hygienist relationship, but like you were saying, the dentist or the hygienist assistant relationship as well, being willing to be a team player when you see they're behind, you're not just scrolling on your phone on Instagram in your room while your patient didn't show up, but you're in the sterilization helping them out too, because you're leading
Yeah.
from the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a great practical example, right? Where it's like if I'm the person being asked, can I like get in the habit of not being like, oh, she's accusing me of something, right? And so, but also like on your end, being like, oh, is there a disclosing solution? And if she's like, oh, no, you're like, oh, I just don't trust myself. Like I have found that I'm just really a lot more thorough and I find it's a great backup for me. If it's like there's a little way to like educate,
Mhm.
sometimes that is helpful. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I have the opportunity to coach a lot of hygienists that are going from chair into a leadership position. And that is honestly one of the toughest transitions. And it's funny because as hygienists, I've always said, like, hey, we don't want to listen to anybody unless they're a hygienist. But even if they're one of our own, we're going to chew them up and spit them out. And so, why, can we be so difficult when working with other hygienists? It absolutely requires a level of like nuance and building a relationship of trust and building each other up. But it's a little scary. I will tell you, the most intimidating audience is this one tonight. It's a group of dental hygienists.
And I feel like it really, grace to me is always the word that comes to mind.
Yep.
Just to have grace. I know we have an unspoken rule in our hygiene department.
Mhm.
Anytime we bring a new hire in, we try to ingrain this into the new hygienist that if you find a piece of calculus and you come after
Yes.
someone else, if you find that they didn't take x-rays when they were supposed to, or they skipped their perio charting, we don't assume that they're
Yes.
lazy. We don't
Hmm.
assume that they didn't do their job.
Always assume the best.
We always assume that their patient was probably late, that that day has gone sideways for them. We are
Hmm.
sisters. We like, we just always
Yeah.
assume the best and not the worst, because when you start assuming the worst and you start nitpicking each other, it starts to create a catty culture in the department.
I love that. And I would commend you guys for building such a strong culture. And I know your doctors are here listening. And I think that that just says so much. There are so many people that even the idea of assuming the good has never been taught. And that's what we're trying to like, one of the things we're definitely trying to do is like, how can we, support each other and love each other and be there? I will also tell you, last thing I'll say, because I know we have Dr. Brian's next. I have the opportunity to have one-on-ones with associate dentists, and I have had probably 10 with female dentists in the last 2 months. And I will tell you, every single one of them ended in tears. And that is because they are being bullied by the dental hygienists and some of the dental assistants who have been there. And so it's really tough. And they're like, I don't know how to work with hygienists. And I feel this like passive aggressiveness. And it's with the female dentists more than with the male dentist. And so I wish that was not the case. I don't, I'm just sharing what my experience has been, that every single one of my one-on-ones in the last 2 months with female dentists have ended up in tears over bullying from the team. And many of it came from dental hygienists, which I'm sure nobody on this call is like that. That's what's tough, is this is probably the top 10% of hygienists who will show up to something like this, but average dental hygienist is not being kind to those female associates.
And that's not the name we want for ourselves, is it? Right? I mean,
Right.
that's the opposite of what we're trying to provide chairside. I know that
Hmm.
we didn't go to hygiene school to not be kind and compassionate and loving toward our
Hmm.
patients. And so
Yeah.
in that realm, we have to promote and try to do better,
Hmm.
And if we
Yeah.
want to be treated better, I think you set the example of this is how I want to be treated, so I need to
Yes.
treat well too.
And when we have, yeah.
I've actually had that experience where I felt intimidated and felt like the hygienist message was coming across in a really powerful way. And
Hmm.
looking back now, it was basically just because they knew a lot and they were trying to make change and
Yes.
impact,
Hmm.
and they just didn't know how to communicate that in a positive way. So, I
And
think that's a
I've been
really
there.
important thing to bring up, is like intimidation comes across sometimes as you're trying to make change, but it's not seen on the receiving end in a positive light. So rewording it in a way where, like you said, with grace and understanding, goes a lot further in terms of reception, especially from the older doctor.
Yes,
Yes,
I can
you're
speak to
absolutely
that.
right. That passionate hygienist is the one. They're like,
Mm.
oh, she's a lot, It's
That
because she
might be me,
cares so
guys.
much.
That might be me. I was
Yeah,
just
raise your
thinking,
hand if that's you. It's probably every one of us in
I
here.
was
Yeah.
just thinking, my our associate doctor, Dr. Lou, who is fantastic. We cannot speak highly enough about him. When he first started early last year, I'm very passionate. I feel very strongly about patient care and about what we're doing. And Yeah, he's handled me with such grace and such love, but I'm a lot, I know. So I try to do better, Josie.
I I appreciate your passion. I think it's great. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Dr. Brian. It's how can we deliver that message in a way that doesn't feel so intimidating, right? Or
Yes.
intense, but it's a level of like let that excited passion come through.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Are we ready to move on to question three? Are you ready, Dr. Brian?
I'm ready.
All right. It doesn't matter whether you are a dental hygienist, dental assistant, or associate dentist. As an employee, it can be very difficult to be an agent for change. So, perfect segue for this. So, the next question is for you. As a practice owner, it seems you have intentionally and thoughtfully decided to rebrand your practice toward a prevention centered, people first model. What experiences or realizations led you to this point, and what role did communication play in making that change possible? So, from your perspective as a practice owner, how can hygienists positively and effectively communicate their desire to evolve hygiene protocols in ways that elevate patient outcomes and strengthen the overall health of the practice?
Yeah, I think what Josie just brought up was probably the biggest impact on me. I'm a dentist just trying to do the best care for my patients. And at the end of the day, there's people arguing in the back, staff that's mad, things that are late, and things are just, blowing up behind the scenes. And it's a really hard thing to say, hey, I'm going to not only practice hygiene, but I'm also going to run employees and make sure that everything's being sought to in the business aspect as well. And so that's where all of a sudden my vision started changing with the practice of saying, okay, instead of me just focusing on dentistry, how do I solve these hurdles and how do I put out these fires before they become a problem? And for me, team unity and trying to get peace and happiness and a culture that was happy to be here at the practice was the number one most important thing. So that's kind of where we kind of just decided to focus on three things. One was talking more regularly, talking more open, talking more honestly in terms of what makes our days better and easier, and what are some of the things that actually cause more stress and problems in the office. Two, defining it, like actually putting that on paper and being open with the entire team of what does this all look like. Um, then the third one is this clarity of like, okay, if this is what we're going to do, how are we going to make that happen? How are we going to make it possible? We're all really trying to do the best care for our patients. So instead of turning it into, tension between the team, how do we actually put something together where we can actually work together? And like they had mentioned previously, maybe it's you finishing early to go help the other hygienist clean their room, or, helping take out the trash, or doing those certain things that you're actually giving, because the more you give, the more you're going to receive back. So if you feel like you need more communication from the doctor, maybe try communicating more. Or if you feel like you need, more love and smiles in the office, maybe try giving that out first. It's really interesting thing that you see whatever you're giving out to other people, you're going to receive more of it. So I think the clarity and getting the whole team on board was the number one thing. And then for me as the owner doctor, sometimes you hygienists understand that or assume that the owner doctor knows what you want or what would make your day easier. But it's really amazing when we sat at a table not with patients, but just kind of open table and just said, hey, let's write on paper, like, I need to understand from your day, what is it that you need to do better? And I found the tension and the stress and the emotions of what they were demanding softened because all of a sudden their voices were heard. So I think that's a big part of this is trying to say in a way to your owner doctor or to your teammates, your other hygienists, how do we create a peaceful understanding of what we all need? You don't have to be best friends, but communication in terms of clarity and then getting on the same page. So I put five things together that really helps in terms of what you can do, starting tomorrow, whether it be making change with other hygienists to get on the same page of what do routine intervals look like for a periodontal maintenance SPT or a prophy, or what is a 3-month patient versus 6-month patient, or when are we going to give anesthesia and when are we going to use the laser? When are we going to be talking about Sonicare versus a manual toothbrush? Some of these factors that you work so hard on, and then all of a sudden you hear in the next room, they're going against everything you just said the last visit. It becomes really hard and a lot of tension. So the first action item I say is find out when is a good time to talk to that person. Meaning a sticky note, an email, a text. Don't go up to them and say, hey, I need to talk to you. Find out in a time that's convenient for them as when they're available, when they don't have distractions and they can literally sit down and be available. I know I'm very reactive. If so many things come at me, there's only so much I can take. So I do really well with a message on the computer system or a sticky note. Hey, Dr. Brian, I'd love to chat. And I'm like, cool. I know at 3 o'clock I got time. Let's meet. So I'm present and I'm more calm and I'm more willing to take on constructive criticism or any questions. And I'm a lot more willing to be attentive. The other thing is, the second thing would be make it about others. Don't just make it about yourself, right? Hey, we're trying to do the best here for our patients, or we're really trying to create team unity. Here's what I'd like to see. As opposed to, I'm mad, I'm angry, or I can't get these things that I want. That doesn't come across as well. You got to think about the whole and what's good for other people. The third one would be share your observations. Don't take the emotions or any complaints. So something like this, like, hey, our practice is really here for giving the best care to our patients, but I'm really noticing that a lot of the patients are confused as to how often they should be coming in, or, hey, I'm really confused because some of our patients are being seated 10 minutes into the appointment, and I really can't be able to provide the best care for them if that continues to happen. The fourth point would be offering solutions. If you come with things to the dentist or another hygienist or another team member, the best thing you can do is offer up what would solve it. The worst thing you can do is say what your problem is and leave it like that. That just means you're venting, you're complaining. It creates more problems on the other person. Because the best thing I've ever had is an employee sit down and say, "Hey, Dr. Brian, thank you for meeting with me. I really want to make sure that we uphold the standards of our patient care. Some of the things that I'm seeing are this, but what I find is best, or what my solution would be, is could we implement XYZ?" And then that's really what's going to be the great thing, is you're already giving 3 solutions of what could actually solve this problem without the doctor or the hygienist having to figure out your problem. If it's something that's important to you, you should be able to come up with 3 different ways that you can solve it. It's really helpful too. You say, hey, here's 3 different things I've thought about, but here's my best suggestion. And what I need from you is just the go ahead, the thumbs up. Hey, you got my permission, let's do it. Or is it going to cost any money for me? Or is it going to cost any time? Or if anything else, is it going to positively affect me? Hey, doctor, if I have that more time with my patient, I'm going to be able to actually take an intro photo of that. And when you come in for the exam, I'm going to do a better job co-diagnosing that tooth that has a crack on it. The patient's going to be aware of it, and they're going to be more receptive to your care. Would that help you with your treatment if I could do that? Great. So the fifth thing is define time. When you bring up these ideas of change, it can be a very scary thing for people that want to do something different. So I always like to say, if you come up with a solution, how long are you going to try it for? It's not going to hurt sometimes to try it for just 30 days, 1 month. Can we just try it for 30 days and see the effect? I'll come back, I'll be in charge of this, and I'm going to report to you what the effects have been. You don't have to do anything other than just give me that opportunity. And if it doesn't work, we can always go back to our traditional way. So I think those 5 steps is really what's really allowed us to evolve as a team. And actually, discussions on a more regular cadence has actually put out a lot of fires that were brewing that I didn't even know were a problem. So just to review again, 1 is find a good time to talk where they're receptive and not distracted. 2, make this about improving it for everyone else, the doctor, the staff, the patients, not about yourself. 3 is share observations of what you're seeing, not just your emotions. 4, offer solutions. 3 of them would be ideal, and what your favorite idea after that is. And then the 5th one is like, how long do you think that this would take to either see effects, or how long would you implement it before you feel like we need to come back to the drawing board to see if there's a better way of doing it? So I hope that helps.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
That was really good.
Love that.
I feel like so many of those different points, I was like, yeah, without knowing that I've done one of your checklists, that's how I did go about it. That's what we did. I was just thinking about when we started aligning our hygiene program, we didn't start with just asking for a diode laser. No, we started by working on getting everybody on board with just probing, getting everybody doing the same thing, speaking the same language. We didn't just go asking our doctor for to spend it and dump a bunch of money into the program, into our hygiene program or new instruments. We worked on getting our stuff together, our stuff together, and then we kind of, as we grew together, then we were ready. And when we went to him and we were ready, it was he was like, okay, let me find a laser course for you to go to. Do you guys want to go? And he sent Kristie and I literally within a week or 2 of us talking to him about it, sent us to, a laser course to learn how to use laser. And then we got a laser. So, very, very applicable. I feel like it was effective with our doctor for sure.
Well, and just to have some of those steps too, for somebody that's maybe never communicated in that way with their their boss or their owner
Yeah.
dentist, just have those baby steps of like, okay, I can try this time, see how it goes. Ooh, that felt good. Okay, try it again. And just to, because it is an intimidating conversation and it's vulnerable, feels uncomfortable. Just have that, I loved your come up with 3 solutions. This is my favorite. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
I thought that was so great.
Yeah, and the other thing I think we try to avoid talking about too is sometimes the vision of the practice and the way you want to practice don't align.
Yeah.
And I'm in this business group right now, and a lot of the discussion is you hire and fire on your culture. And when you have a culture where the team all is agreeing on this is how we probe, this is how we do maintenance, this is how we do things here, it creates a standard of care between each provider that that's what we're going to do. And if there's someone that's on the team that's not quite up to par, it puts a lot of pressure on them to see whether or not this is a good fit for them. But sometimes I also see on the other end of it, I've been the associate where the doctor wants me to do cleanings every 30 minutes and do dentistry on top of it. And this doesn't align with what is important in my life and how I want to practice. So I think it's also great to give ourselves grace. If we say, listen, I'm going to give it a 6 months of trying these communication skills, of trying to document ways of improving communication, even using ChatGPT of different ways to approach doctors or different personalities, and seeing how can I word this, how can I do this, and give yourself a certain amount of time. You say, listen, I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to give it grace for 6 months. And if this is something that is not being received well, then maybe it's time to look for another opportunity. And I think that's something that we always hold on that if I leave or if I get fired, it's a terrible thing. And it's something that I've went through the hard part of adjusting that some of these offices that I look back now and I'm like, I'm so glad they let me go, or I'm so glad I quit because I couldn't see myself being in that long term because there are better ways to do things. I think you should always give it your best try to make positive change with where you're at. But it's also to do what you can do and control your controllables, right? What CE courses can you take? What technology do they have in the office you could actually take advantage of that's already there that you could actually add value? What can you do? Instead of like pointing the fingers or complaining, the power within yourself to decide how you're going to respond to situations and how you're going to bring the best to the table is really going to make you feel at the end of the day, if you tried your best and it doesn't work out, hey, that's okay. There's going to be another place that may align with me better. And I think having the grace to find that and have your own expectations of what you deserve as a hygienist that spent all these years and time to have a greater life for you and your family, you also deserve to have standards that you want to not just give in to what is happening in the environment around you, because then you're equally as guilty of what's being done.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest part too, knowing when to let go and move on.
Yeah. And there's no perfect answer.
No.
No.
No, but I feel like it just brings up a really valid point that know when your season's over. Know when your time is finished. If it's time to move on, it's time to move on, and there'll be something better ahead. So I think that's a
Yep.
good thought too. Anybody else want to add to that?
Dr. Brian, you were such a great example of a visual language processor. You hit every single visual cue and then some. It just kept going. That was a lot of fun to listen to. I'm hoping somebody else picked up on that. And I wanted to just say that I love that your first point was asking when is a good time to talk. One of my biggest, I always learn the best through the hardest feedback. And one of the hardest feedbacks that I had received was how intense I came across when I would just plop in to say, like, hey, I need to talk to you. And to set that up to say, Doctor, I need to talk to you about this situation. I expect it to take about 10 minutes. Let me know when it's a good time for you. Because when you don't give that pre-frame of what the content I need to dump on you is, that's going to make sure I am going to be in a place where I can receive it better. So
Yep.
taking what you said and just in building just a bit has made such an impact in my communication, especially with a more senior leader, because I want to make sure that they have the time for me. The worst I feel is when I'm on a meeting and somebody's like this or looking at another screen, where then I get anxious. So when I give somebody else the space to know how much time I expect it to take and why, I've had the best results that way. So thank you for setting that up.
Yeah, that's great.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. All right.
Let's move on here. So picking up where Dr. Brian left off, we are equally passionate about doing all we can to improve our patients' oral systemic health. Another way communication can improve patient outcomes is through our interactions with specialists. So Amanda, this next question is for you. It addresses the whole body integrative care. As dentistry continues to move toward prevention-centered whole health models, many teams feel called to expand their impact beyond the dental practice. From your experience, where should teams begin when building interdisciplinary relationships with providers like ENT specialists, PCPs, naturopaths, oral surgeons, orthodontists, TMD specialists, and oncologists? How does intentional communication make these collaborations meaningful, effective, and ultimately better for patient outcomes?
Thanks, Kristie.
You're welcome.
I'm really passionate about this subject. I feel like I've learned a ton in the last 5 or 6 years about this and have had wonderful relationships blossom and grow personally, professionally, and within our practice here at Dove. And so basically where I feel like teams should start when building interdisciplinary relationships is just starting within your own practice. It starts with a mindset shift, though. It's a mindset shift that helps you realize that dentistry is not separate from healthcare. We are healthcare. When we as dental professionals intentionally practice at the top of our licensure, and I stole that from Heather the other day. I love the way she put that. We as dental professionals, it becomes the most natural next step to want to progress that rather than like an intimidating one. So that means understanding that the vital signs that we take, the head and neck exams we perform, and the airway screenings, and the sleep conversations, and the oral cancer screenings that we complete are just as important as the crowns, the root canals, and the periodontal therapy that we provide. When the entire team understands that, from the front desk to the assistant to the hygienist to the dentist, that's when we begin speaking a shared language. It's a shared language of comprehensive care. So practically, where do teams begin? They begin by brainstorming a more comprehensive questionnaire to ask their patients during routine exams. We should be having detailed conversations about medications, recent surgeries, and health events. We should be having detailed conversations about, we should be providing patients with clear and honest feedback about their vital signs. And we should be encouraging them to consult with their medical providers when their readings fall outside of normal ranges, which I know can be really hard for some providers to have those conversations because the patients don't always want to hear it. And so sometimes it can be hard and awkward. We should be asking every patient how they sleep at night. We should be documenting and screening for airway dysfunction. We should be documenting snoring, bruxism, reflux, fatigue, headaches, and mouth breathing. We should be performing thorough oral cancer screenings and head and neck exams on every patient every time. When those screenings become routine and our entire staff understands why they matter, collaboration stops feeling like extra work and it starts feeling like a responsibility. Once that foundation is set, the next step is intentional outreach. And I want to emphasize this, that specialists are not annoyed by your outreach. It's actually quite the opposite. Most of them are waiting for it. One of the most effective and simplest ways to start is by inviting specialists into your office. This can be for a meet and greet or a full-on lunch and learn. ENTs, oral surgeons, orthodontists, you name it, many of them are eager to build the relationship with dental teams, but struggle to initiate that connection. When you invite them in, you are not just exchanging business cards. You are building a relationship. And most importantly, you are building trust. I'd like to share an example from my own experience that truly changed how I view interdisciplinary communication. A few years ago, a coworker and I completed our myofunctional therapy training together, and we began setting up a program within our office here at Dove. And we were very aware that our local ENT in our area utilized myofunctional therapy in his practice, and we felt he would be an ideal provider for our patients. Instead of just sending referrals blindly, we decided to reach out. We invited him to our office to meet the entire team. During that, we discussed how we could better screen patients for tethered oral tissues, what airway dysfunction looks like from both a dental and medical perspective, how he preferred his referrals to him to be written, what language was most helpful, what clinical photos, notes, and documentation that he wanted to receive. Then we also asked a critical question. How can we make your job easier when we send patients to you? This question, because we were open to learning, gave us the opportunity that he stopped and decided to teach the whole entire team impromptu how to grade and assess tonsils, how to give Malin potty scores, because he really wanted in those referrals some of that documentation, that information. He wanted tonsil grades on there. Well, we didn't really like put that specifically. We would put enlarged or whatever. But on the referral, if we knew he wanted that information, he wanted to know what their tongue tie grade was. And so when we had that honest, open discussion, we were able to really open the door to communication at that point. At that time, we had no idea that that one meeting that we had with that ENT would change and save the lives of dozens of our patients. And I don't say that sentence lightly. It has truly changed and saved the lives of so many of our patients, and I could name them all to you, just the ones in my chair that have landed in my chair. That ENT has since become a trusted resource for our practice. We've leaned on his expertise, not only for airway and sleep disordered breathing cases, but also when we've identified abnormal head and neck findings. He has helped expedite care, confirm diagnosis, and guide next steps when something didn't look right. That relationship exists because we took the time to communicate intentionally. We've had similar experiences with other specialists in our areas, especially dental specialists. I won't go into all of them for sake of time, but the dental specialists are even more open than maybe medical specialists are to collaborating because they understand the link between all of what we do and how important it is. And I'll be honest, when forging bridges with medical and dental, it's not always easy. Geography matters, access to care matters. And we know that not every provider, medical provider especially, understands the oral systemic link. But we've experienced firsthand when we've had several patients that are MD VIP physicians, patients who see MD VIP's physicians who are open to collaborating with us and reviewing salivary diagnostics to help improve patient outcomes. The challenge is that many of these physicians aren't accepting new patients, so we can't always refer into those relationships. But here's the key takeaway tonight that I want everybody to get out of this conversation, that even one collaborative provider can change patient outcomes dramatically. So how does intentional communication make these collaborations meaningful? First, it means being clear and specific in your referrals. Second, it means using a shared language. Airway, inflammation, sleep quality, systemic risk. Third, it means closing the loop. We have to close the communication loop. We have to follow up. We have to ask questions, and we have to document outcomes. And finally, it means remembering why we're doing this, why we're in dentistry, why we're hygienists, why we're dentists, why we're assistants. We as dental professionals are often the first line of defense. We see our patients more frequently than most medical providers. We look inside the mouth. We evaluate soft tissue. We observe breathing patterns. We hear and see health changes long before a diagnosis is made. When we practice at the top of our licensure and collaborate intentionally, we aren't just molar mechanics and tooth scrapers. We change lives. So my call to action for every dental team here is this. Start small. Ask better questions. Standardize your screenings. Invite one specialist into your office this year. Learn their language and teach them yours. Because when dentistry and medicine stop working in silos and start working together, patients don't just receive sick care. They receive comprehensive, prevention-centered, life-saving healthcare. And that to me is the power of intentional communication.
Yeah, yes, 100% agreed. It's been really neat too to see our patients' response in some of this and communicating with them about their overall health and having a hygienist and dentist refer them to another medical provider, and then them coming back and saying, "You were right." It's like, yeah, I know, but it's so neat to have that relationship then with a provider who supports us in our findings, and it just helps the patient understand that their whole body is a part, or their mouth is a part of their whole body.
Or just at changing like the way that they live, their everyday life, getting their deviated septums fixed. I mean, I can't tell you how many patients, we've come across that literally can't breathe through their nose and they thought it was normal. And then going to the ENT, getting it addressed, and literally showing up the next visit in your chair in tears, in absolute tears because of how impactful that referral had been in their life. I don't know, have you guys, the rest of you guys had any experience with this?
I think it's pretty eye-opening and shocking how much the medical world doesn't really see the mouth as a part of healthcare, right? And so the fact that all of us have potential to make change in it, I think it's what you said about reaching out to that provider or the ENT and saying, how can we better prepare ourselves or the patient to come to your office is such a great way to open up the door of conversation because a lot of these medical providers don't even consider a lot of what's going on in the mouth. They just assume, oh, you've gone to your dentist to get your cavities checked, right? But as soon as we, open up that door of that olive branch of saying, hey, we'd love to collaborate on it, it's amazing how people are like so much more receptive to it. Oh, great. I would love to know more what you guys are doing. They're kind of afraid to ask that, they're not really sure what to do or what's happening. But the fact that we've kind of reached out in that positive manner to bridge the gap, not only does it help with our communication, but the patient's care I find goes through the roof when that providing physician knows that we're on top of it on our end. I find that they're sending the reports, they're calling us, they're checking with the patient 10 times more because someone's watching it. And I feel like the patient really appreciates it when we're communicating with them and we're actually looking out for their best interest instead of just being ignored or forgotten about in the system.
Yeah, we have a oncologist up at Swedish in Seattle, and we have a few patients who are under his care for oral cancer. And he sends his reports down to us, and I feel like he's really on top of it because he's received calls from us a few different times, or multiple times, or too many times to count. And so asking for those. So now we pretty regularly just get those reports. And so you're 100% right about that. They know they're being held to a different, standard,
Mhm.
or we're doing things at a different level. So they want to match it and meet it. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, moving on.
Yeah, Heather was just mentioning about the high blood pressure, and that's something that doesn't take time, right? A minute out of your time just to take the blood pressure, start the conversation of, hey, are you at least monitoring? Is someone talking to you about it? I understand this environment's a little more stressful, but
Mhm.
I had someone say, well, I'm going to go to a dentist's office that doesn't take my blood pressure. I
Yeah.
said, oh, yeah, you're more than welcome to go wherever you want, but just know if they don't care about you to take your blood pressure, what else are they missing out on? What else are they not doing? So
Yes.
that's the biggest sign that we can do is just saying, hey, we are here to care for you. And if I didn't take this blood pressure, I wouldn't be caring for you. So coming up from that end instead of like, some of these people are stressed, they're overwhelmed, and they're already anxious as is. But that's why I'm taking the blood pressure, because when you are anxious, where are you at? You should be at a safe level, even if you're anxious. I don't want a perfect score. I'm not diagnosing heart disease, but I at least want to make sure I'm looking after you. And I think that just shows right from the get-go that you haven't even entered my mouth yet, but you're actually looking at my medical history and the blood pressure. I think that's incredibly valuable for your patient care, and they're going to notice that that's something different about the way that you're caring for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. A certain picture of a patient popped in my mind right when you told that story that wasn't too long ago. And I come to find out her whole reason for questioning and being so upset about her blood pressure by the second appointment, as she returned, even though she didn't really want to and was so upset with taking her blood pressure, was just out of fear. She was so scared, so fearful, so, worried, concerned, bad experiences, trauma, you name it. And we worked through it, we moved through it, but I had to have that difficult conversation of saying, that's okay if you don't want your blood pressure taken. I don't have to take it, but we might not be the right office for you because we cannot move forward with today's appointment without taking your blood pressure. And
Yeah.
she just like looked at me, sat back in her chair after being like kind of forward in that like anxious position, And I was calm and I was just like, it's no big deal. We're not for everybody. I said to her, I says, we're definitely know we're not for everybody, but here at Dove, we take your blood pressure every appointment, every time. So you can expect that moving forward. So if
Yeah.
it's not for you, you might want to find another office that won't take your blood pressure.
And one little tip I found for some of those really nervous patients, I usually tell them, hey, would it be okay if I take it and I won't mention anything about it? I'm just going to write it in the chart. We're going to move on. I'm not going to make a big deal of it. We're just going to take it. You don't even have to see the number. I'm not going to say the number. We're just going to take it, record it, move on. I'll just make it super simple and easy, casual for you. It's no big deal. And a lot of times, you're like, oh, well, if I don't have to know it, you're not going to tell me, then just get it over with. And so sometimes they give you permission from that end of it because they're expecting a huge lecture or a huge, oh my God, it's higher than I want. And, they're
Yeah,
self-conscious about it. So
totally.
that can kind of make it a little easier if you want to take it. So,
Yeah, and I think that's perfect before until you build that rapport, that trust with that patient to the point where then they're okay with you having a hard or difficult conversation because sometimes that comes later after trust is built.
yeah,
So, yeah,
for sure.
so good. All right, you ready to be in the hot seat, Kristie?
Yeah, here we go.
All right. Many dental professionals feel technically skilled yet emotionally depleted, caught between productivity and perfectionism and people care. How has your relationship with communication evolved as you've navigated burnout, boundaries, or growth? And what does it mean to communicate as a human first in dentistry in 2026?
So yes, getting a little vulnerable here, aren't we? For a long time, I thought, especially in my early years of being a hygienist, that I thought communication was really about trying to make sure I was saying the right thing to my patients. Did they understand what I was saying? Did they get it? Are they gonna have questions later? I thought that's what I was doing, communicating. But I've learned it's a lot more than that, especially the nonverbal communication. It's how we enter the operatory. It's how we respond when we're running behind to our team. It's the tension in our voice when we're tired. We're emotionally depleted. Well, I can say that I have experienced periods of time in this, having two small children, working lots. But it's important to remember because even when we think we're hiding it and we're maintaining it, our teammates and our patients, they feel that energy, whether we're aware of it or not. So when we're burned out, when we're disengaged or frustrated, it shows, and that impacts our trust, our morale, and our patient experience. So one of the biggest shifts in my communication wasn't peer-to-peer or patient communication. It was actually internally with myself. And I learned to be really honest with myself. And I needed to be honest about when I was burned out, when I was bored, when clinical hygiene started to feel repetitive, and when I was going through the motions instead of being present and in the moment. It was honestly really uncomfortable. And, dentistry, I feel like in the whole big picture of things, it really rewards endurance and pushing through and just get through the appointment, get to the next patient, on and on and on. But when you live in that and you're doing that, you're ignoring those feelings and that strain and that tension within you. That doesn't make you a better clinician. It actually made me disconnected. So that disconnection can leak into your communication and break down that system there. So what I want to normalize, though, through all of this is that it's okay to reinvent yourself. And it's okay to grow within and even beyond that role that you've originally chosen for yourself. Now, you can still be under that umbrella of dental hygienist or dental assistant, dentist, whatever it may be. But how are you going to try to? I kind of always think of it as like this little bubble, and like you just want to kind of just push the boundaries a little to practice at, like Heather said a few times, or we've mirrored what Heather's been saying, practice at the type of your licensure. What are those things that you're going to find in your career that give that little bit of spark that's going to help propel you and continue on to help keep yourself honest with where you're at and communication with yourself. So clinical hygiene is repetitive by nature. We know this. That doesn't mean that you're failing if you find it repetitive or that like you're ungrateful for your job. It just means that you're human. And actually, funny enough, today, a friend of mine posted quite the quote, and I was like, my goodness, what perfect timing. I'm literally pulling it up on my Instagram right now because I couldn't believe, oh, is my internet going to be funny now? Well, I'll come back to it. I'll let it simmer. Um, but it just means that you're human to recognize those feelings within yourself. And I feel like burnout is this big bad word that's thrown around in dentistry a little bit. But if you talk about it and if you lean in with your coworkers and you say, this is how I'm feeling, releasing that communication and opening that door, it really does relieve some of that feeling and that stress that can really bring you down in your day. Um, Kind of want to go back to that little moment that I was talking about with growth. It doesn't always mean that you have to leave dentistry because you feel burnt out. Sometimes you just need to press into it differently and have a perspective shift and see how that kind of threads its way into your day. And Dr. Brian kind of mentioned that earlier. He's like, try it, on a different spin of what he was saying, but try it for 30 days. See what it produces, see what the effects are. Maybe jot a one little sentence line to yourself in a Word document that you have on your station computer that this is how I felt today. This is how I felt today. I did this. This is how I felt today. And maybe you see a positive trend slowly as time goes on. So for me, staying engaged meant learning new techniques within dental hygiene. So I decided I'm going to become an expert in some of this equipment that I already have. Maybe it's some dusty piece of equipment in the back corner that you're wanting to bust out and say, hey guys, we're going for it. We're jumping in the deep end. Who's with me? Understanding why behind some of the things that we're doing and not just using them. Maybe there's a unique type of ultrasonic that you have that you aren't really into, but maybe why, and understanding the why behind why it's there might help spark some joy in your day to day and get you back into it. And also learning how to work at the top of my licensure and not below it. So pushing those boundaries, finding the little niches that will spark some joy. And when we push ourselves to grow clinically, that communication will change and you'll start to see that shift. Your confidence will show up differently and your presence will be stronger and your team will feel it. So, we want to be clear too in our communication with boundaries. When we don't express our limits to others, we can become short, we can disengage, and we can show up emotionally exhausted. But when we do express our boundaries and how we're feeling with our coworkers, we can model healthy professionalism and we can protect our energy and prevent burnout from turning into resentment. You can't pour from an empty cup. So no matter how skilled you are, check in with yourself, be honest with yourself, and strive for that communication. So I'm going to keep mine a little short here and for the sake of time, but I do want to read this little blurb here from my friend. I don't know if the internet is going to do its thing right now, of course. Oh, here it goes. I just thought it couldn't have been better timing, and I can't wait to tell her that I shared this. What a privilege it is to be tired from a challenge of your own choosing. And that just resonated with me. I don't know if that sparks any curiosity for other people, but I'm saving this one on my phone. Might even print it out and keep it in a spot that's easy for me to keep an eye on. So let's move on to the end of our evening here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristie. That was awesome. All right. We just want to, as we bring this evening to a close and move forward into 2026, we just want you guys to think to yourself, what is one conversation or even one word choice that you will approach differently after tonight's conversations?
Yeah, thank you guys for all the great discussion here tonight. Thank you to our panelists, Josey, Heather, and Dr. Brian. Thank you to our Social 630 community for your virtual support tonight. It means so much to us.
If you would like to reach out, you can direct message any of us on Instagram. We can all be found there. You guys can screenshot this if you need to.
I'll do that for just a second here.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to our question and answer.
So we're going to spend the next few minutes addressing questions from the chat. One of our hygienists, Haley, I don't know if she wants to unmute herself and say hello.
Hello.
Hey, Haley.
Hey, this was awesome. Thank you guys so much. We had one question in the chat, and it was from Rachel. She said, curious about communication as a lead when navigating burnout with a staff member or hygienist.
Ooh, is this a good one for Dr. Brian, maybe? Or you, Kristie?
Yeah,
I can take it.
yeah, Heather too.
I can take it really quickly. I've navigated burnout multiple times in more than just career. So one of the things that, and Kristie, I was taking a bunch of notes when you were talking. To me, it comes down to three things: skill set, mindset, and action. So when you're hitting burnout or when you're working with somebody who is navigating burnout, if you can guide them to see which one of those three categories they want to strengthen. So do they have the skill? Are they burnt out because they don't have the resources available to them to efficiently do their job? Do you have to take a course? Do you have to get on continuing education such as this to inspire within? What do I have to do to create and increase my skill set? Is it my mindset? Kristie, you said you had mentioned internal dialogue. That's going to help you navigate your mindset. And if you wake up every day, our unconscious mind's job is to prove us right. So if we wake up every day and we say we hate our job, we hate the world, dentistry's terrible, then our unconscious mind is looking for experiences to say, you're right, got you. So what is my mindset going into the day that I am trying to prove myself right to? And then if my mindset's right and my skill set's right, what's blocking me from taking action? And that could be a plethora of things. But when you say this is the action that needs to be taken, then you can align yourself with resources to move that. So burnout to me always comes down to that: skill set, mindset, and action.
Awesome. That was such a good answer. Any follow-up there?
I had something, Amanda, if you can hear me.
Yeah, totally.
So what I have found when a lot of hygienists are burned out is that so often we are actually blaming work, and we think that it is work and it's the job and the monotony and the repetition. But what I find is that sometimes we're not putting as much energy and intention into other important areas of our life. And we are like out of harmony or out of balance. And so when I have somebody that tells me that they're feeling burned out, I'll start to ask questions like, are you taking time for yourself? Do you feel like you have a good routine for your physical health? Do you have a good routine for your mental health? And so often it's like we might get into this habit of just kind of like scrolling, right? And not having good routines or good habits or rhythms. And often when I encourage people to like find out, is there a hobby that you enjoy? Is there something that you would do that would help you feel better physically? And even if it's just giving them permission to or encouragement to have more healthy habits that they pick themselves, I find that the burnout, it can help with the burnout. So often we're just like burning the candle at all ends and we're stretched really thin. And especially if you're working with like moms, helping them find those moments in their day where they can find 10 minutes for meditation or go for a walk in the afternoon or something like that, I have found that it will help with the burnout. Just so many people blame work, and it's actually not work. It's that we're not living the rest of our life with intention and focus and having those healthy habits.
I love that.
Yeah, so good.
So good.
I need to work on that, Josey.
Any other questions in the chat that we didn't answer
Or address.
or anybody else want to pop one in there? You can. No, we're getting down to minutes here.
It looks like that was all from the chat, but we were definitely open for more questions too.
Oh, here's one. Is learning the business with a general practice versus pediatrics much different? I have found this a challenge to navigate.
From a hygienist perspective or a dentist perspective?
RDH.
RDH. Can anybody speak to that? Because I've never worked in pediatrics.
I
gotta be
can.
hard. Okay.
So I think I repeat the question. Is learning the business of pediatrics harder than general dentistry? Is that the question?
Yeah, is learning the business with a general practice versus pediatrics much different? I have found this a challenge to navigate.
So I've had the opportunity to work with lots of like people who run general practices, and then they try to add on a pediatric practice or vice versa. And I will tell you, whether it's pediatrics or orthodontics, anything when you go from a general dental practice to some type of very niche specialty, it can be a challenge because the economics are a little bit different. The procedure codes are obviously different. So you're like the levers of scale and things that you know how to grow. Or even like with pediatrics or other specialty, marketing can be very different because you're relying on referral sources versus some of the like direct to consumer marketing. And so I would have to have more context into the question, but I would say it's a very normal experience when you're going from one to the other to feel like it's tough to wrap your arms around it, and you almost just have to like break what you know and learn something new. And I don't know if that's a helpful answer. If that person wants to reach out, I might be able to help them more, but I have seen people struggle when they go from one to the other for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Josey, for answering that.
Of course, if anybody has more questions, you can always reach out.
Yeah, reach out. For time's sake, we are going to move on to some of the fun of the end of the presentation here. So we have a Best in Chat giveaway, huh, Kristie?
Yes. So while Haley is telling the Best in Chat or the chat for the Best in Chat giveaway, we want to thank our sponsors tonight, Haleon and 323 Dentistry, Dr. Brian. In our giveaway, we have one black Social 630 crew. It'll be all black, not neon.
Black on black.
In any size that you
like Dr. Brian's there.
Yes.
You showed it.
A 30-minute virtual coaching session for owner dentist and hygienist with Dr. Brian, and a full-size Sensodyne swag bag. So Haley, without further ado, do you want to unmute yourself and let us know?
Rachel Pina is the lucky winner
Rachel,
tonight.
will we even know you? Rachel, one of our girls. She brought her whole team up here to hang out with us. Gosh, in September?
Yeah.
Oh, we had a blast. We had so much fun.
Yes, and Dr. Brian was quickly behind her, or shortly behind her.
He would have won his own giveaway.
Seriously, it was awesome.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Rachel. We'll connect with you after the CE, and I have your number, so that's easy. Alrighty. So really quick, we just wanted to do a little plug for our upcoming hands-on workshop. This is in Puyallup, Washington. If you are local to the South Puget Sound or Washington State in general, we have a few slots left. I think there's 4 spots left for our hands-on workshop, which is on January 30th, 2026. It's going to be an amazing event. It's going to be super fun. We're going to have food, and we're going to learn about air polishing and all the different units on the market, and then we're just going to air polish each other. That is limited to 22 people, so we only have 4 spots left for that. That event also is free. All of our events in 2026 are free, and is sponsored by Ivoclar Relief and Dove Family Dentistry. Our Dr. Van Troop is so generous to let us use the office, but it should be a ton of fun.
So then here is our next virtual session. So it is on February 18th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., sponsored by CureProx.
Registration's open.
Yes, registration
It
is
just
open.
opened, so it's open tonight. That's how we're going to open registration for virtuals.
Yes.
Is-
So yeah, it'll be a great night.
On the night of the previous virtuals when the next one will open up. So you should be able to see that on our Instagram. We'll post some links for registration for that. Alrighty, and then really quick, this is just really quick. We have a full schedule for this year. It's posted on our Instagram. If you don't follow us on Instagram, follow.
We hope you decide to join us for some of our upcoming live CE presentations. Please use the link provided here or scan the QR code if you would like to receive dental continuing education credit for this course. The link will take you to a Google form to complete, which will include some quiz questions to ensure you watch the video. Upon completing and passing the quiz, a CE certificate will be automatically sent to the email address you provided. Thank you for watching. Drop us a like or a comment below if you liked this video. We are the Social 630, where CE meets community and care goes beyond the Social 6.